Welcome to the Frankfurt Book Fair. We're so excited to have you, Dr. Berger.
Well, I came in 1970 to the United States, but I'm still a German citizen. So I'm really in two languages, but I began to write in English. And I'm a physician in a very small town in Pennsylvania and had a relatively easy lifestyle, not many changes. So writing came to me later. 𝐶lipperton is an adventure story at the core of which lies crimes of the Third Reich that the father of the protagonist has done. So the protagonist goes into adventures, he goes to an island, gets into a triangle of love with his cousin, they get marooned on a lonely island, they get saved, and what he finds is documents about his father's Nazi time on that island. And that's the core of the novel. It's an adventure with the story of finding out about your father and the history of Germany. The one is more complicated, a little bit more slow. It's the story of a French journalist whom we meet the first time in 1919 when his life gets saved by a German soldier. And just by coincidence, he meets him again in 1940. As you well know, the Germans invaded France. He meets that soldier again, and they almost get along. There comes in between a French woman that they're both in love with. Now that French woman almost gets together with the German. However, when she realizes what the Germans are doing, she goes into the resistance. And our protagonist, the journalist, he is kind of lukewarm. He doesn't perform. So we see him again in 1960 with the son of the German soldier, who is also kind of depressed, kind of damaged by the past. And we see him kind of mulling along as a journalist and regretting that he did not show up during the resistance. So it's kind of a much more pessimistic novel, more down to life. Philosophical. It's a lot about Albert Camus in there, the philosopher, and a lot of relationships of generations. It starts with the father and then the son and so on. Well, the problem was in medicine, you have to work, you establish a practice, you're kind of a workaholic. And I always wanted to write, but I had never the confidence. Then around 45, approaching 50, I brought out a book about the local town that I'm in. And I organized some writers. And I said to myself, wait a moment, I can write that too. And so then I came up with the idea of 𝐶lipperton. And there it went. But I'm definitely a late writer, and I regret that. Well, I have to say yes. My father was not in the party. It was not a problem. But I had two uncles. One was a Nazi, and he was actually in the stormtroops. And the other one was a communist. And they never talked with each other. So there is a tension in the family. Well, you know, it would be interesting if the main literary critic of the New York Times just walks by here. That would be wonderful. It's not going to work, but things have happened. You know, but I get compliments, you know, like it was very rewarding to hear somebody say, in 20 years I want to be like you, somebody told me in LA. Well, I thought, well, I achieved something, you know. Well, the feeling that the history of Germany is a burden. It's a burden of my generation. Because all our fathers and mothers To some degree, were Nazis. They were going along. My father was going along. Nobody was resisting. You know, we were actually living about 50 miles away from Dachau. Oh, hardly knew about it. All that is a burden. Is it still a burden for Germany? Something we cannot easily forget. So it's a burden for me too, and I just try to formalize it in some novels. Any surprises? Well, I get them a hug if the if the female, but if I can entice them to write themselves, that would be really good. Would be one of the things, and it would also be if they realize that an examined life, defined as an examined life, you should have an examined life, increases or contains the story where you came from. That's important. Well, I think there's a certain end to it with the Frankfurt story, because it's the biggest fair. I'm right now feeling I should wait what's happening. I have no specific plans. Well, get the story of the book, get the story about examining your life, get the story about looking where you came from, what nation you came from, and what's underlining all your story, and what your family was all about. Stay with it, stay with it. I'm trying to really get super publishers, you know, for many decades actually. It is very difficult business. 80% of books are bought by women. 20% men right now. So it's very difficult. But hang in there. That's what I would say. Oh, Maple Syrup was very kind. It was very kind to me. And the advertisement, when they said we advertise, you came through with it. You printed the books, that you came through with it. Now, question is advertisement always effective? That's a different question. But you performed well.
Okay. Congratulations, Dr. Berger. This was a wonderful interview.
Right.